Hi guys, I'm Herman, and today we have a very special guest today. I think he's more familiar with me than more familiar with podcasts than me, very experienced as well. Over 100 episodes right now. Okay, can you introduce yourself to all those listening right
Hey
now?
guys, all right. My name is Poighai. I come with a lot of names basically, but I think you can just call me Poighai as well. So I'm one of the hosts in YumCha sessions. Alongside me, I have John, Andrew, and also behind the scene is Jock as well. And today I'll be representing the team basically. Yeah. So like what Herman said, we do have 100 episodes out, and yeah, and I just have to say like to Herman as well. I think to get that, you just have to continue doing what you are doing right now. So it's a good start as well. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Can you give us a bit of
Mm.
information about your podcast, like how everything started? You started from a cafe, right? I remember I scrolled
Yeah.
all the way down. It's crazy.
Yeah. We start. Okay. So basically, we just finished New Year. So if I can't really remember what I think it was a New Year party, and so we were talking. We went to a cafe. So I went to a cafe and I accidentally saw John. All right, it was not intended, and then his brother came as well. So the three of us met at the same cafe, but it was not planned. So we were just sitting down talking, and then John was like, we should have a podcast and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, sure. Then it's like, every time when you talk things with your friend or something, it's just more like talk, but you just never do it. Then I was like, you know what? I think just do it. So we just grab our camera that we have, we just put it on the table, and then we just started to talk. So the first episode was, if you compare with our quality right now, it was not so good, But it was that makes the change. Sometimes all you gotta do is just gotta start first. Sometimes too much planning eventually just never take place. So we just go there, we took the camera, we sat down, and we talked about how after New Year everybody just leaves their trash at the road, which was really, by the way. So that was our first topic, and that was how we got started, Yeah.
Was it the best episode ever? Like this is the best shit you ever done?
I would say it's one of the best episodes because it actually allowed us to meet countless amount of really great people after the podcast. Really good people. We also had a chance to actually talk with Said Sadeh, Hannah Yo, of people who are fighting for our countries, talk with people who are working in the industry. These are all really key insights that I do believe that the younger generations should listen, because what they are doing is for us, for us to take over. So it's very helpful, and yeah. So I think that's how it is, basically.
Now, do you think that this change like from cafe now to studio, you all plan things a lot more right now, like almost a few times more? Or it's still not
Yeah,
planned, it's
yeah.
still like, let's go.
So like initially what we thought is like, you know what, if we do a podcast in every cafe, right? Then every week cafe were like, hey, can you come to my cafe and do podcast? Then we will probably get like free coffee and free food. That was the brief idea, like the unfiltered idea. But as we progressed we realized that doing in studios is not easy, because there are things that you can't control, like sound, lightings, and everything. So it's much faster. So we moved on to John's mom's place, because he had a small room. So we went over there, and right now we are doing it in studio. The studio is basically owned by Chiok. Chiok, he does have his own videographing production house, basically. So we're doing it in his studio, and we felt it's great because the setting and the environment, it just allows a really good conversation to take place.
Was it
Yeah.
because you all wanted free coffee? That's why now it's called YumCha sessions.
Okay. So we were talking about the name. All right. So as we were talking for name, then we came out. We actually come out with a name is one of the most difficult things. It is really difficult. So when we were talking, and then we realized that we came to an agreement by also that most of the time you get those really good conversation when you go out with your friends and drink tea or you just go out for mama, right? Okay. Then we had a discussion like, I think this would work, and that time mama session, the word mama was not taken. Right now there is a podcast called mama session, right? But back then there was mama, the word mama was still available. So we were discussing between mama or YumCha, because when you go YumCha, you sit down with your friends and then you talk. Same goes to mama. You go mama, you sit down with your friend, you talk. That's where you get really unfiltered, and you basically you learn more than going to a meeting room when you go mama, because it can go for hours. So we were contemplating between Mama and YumCha session, and felt that YumCha is much more used and relatable. So we decided to go with YumCha session, and thankfully we did because a few months after that, then suddenly came out Mama session, So I was thinking like, what took Mama? Then they would have taken YumCha, So yeah, so we took YumCha session first and that's how the name came out basically. Yeah.
So you had a good idea of Mama before Mama session came out, right?
Yeah.
So did they steal the idea from you?
I mean when things like this, right, it's basically of improvisation, of what other people have done, right? And then you just try to see in a way how you can make it better for yourself, So it's like, iPhone and Android, it's just seeing how to make things better. But we came out first, if anything. Yeah.
That's right. So
that's how the name came out. Essentially, you just want to make it much more relatable and easy to be remembered. Because the word YumCha, if you just go out, right, more people would. Yeah.
So you mentioned about having good conversation with over tea or coffee, right? But then you all started recording. In your opinion, what makes a podcast good? What makes it attract people to come listen or watch to it, and get this surrounded sequence, so-called influence? What do you think makes it good? Makes a podcast good?
It's a very subjective question because it really depends on the individual as well. Let's say, for example, if I were to click this podcast, and by the time I stop watching the podcast, if I felt that I learned something or I'm able to have a key takeaway, then I do believe that makes a podcast good. In fact, but if you look at the other side, if I watch the podcast, even if I learn nothing, but I enjoy it and it makes me laugh, or enjoy it, and it makes people enjoy in a way or another, then I do believe that makes a podcast good as well. So it really depends on the topic of the podcast and how it affects other people. Because the 4 hours are talking right there, right? And of course we are having a great time because essentially that's what we do, But what makes it better is if Malaysians who watch it and they are able to have a key takeaway and have a really good time and enjoy it, then I think that's what makes a podcast good, Even if it can be like 10 people watching the podcast, but if in that 10 people you can reach out to 8 individuals who had a great time, or even they are able to have a key takeaway, it makes your podcast good. The numbers does not justify how good a podcast is, Yeah. That's what I think people should always reflect on too,
Yeah. Talking about numbers, right? You all went from this small group of friends just trying to have fun. When this podcast stopped around with coffee and get free coffee, until now, like still inviting big guys, like big people there in your podcast. What are your thoughts on that? It's crazy, right? To have all these big guys.
Bro, I think that is definitely one of the craziest journey that I've started. Like because you see what started out as fun slowly turned out to be impactful, because we noticed that people are commenting, and then friends coming over to us and saying like, bro, that was good podcast and everything. So as we do more and more podcasts, right, we realize that we are actually part of the media, And when you are the media, when people actually come to you and they watch your podcast and there is a key takeaway and they actually believe what you're saying, right? Because your podcast is so raw, you become the media. And from slowly as we talk and we meet a lot of people, we realize that it's actually quite important for us to ensure standard and quality in our podcast. That's why you see that we have improvement, and the conversation that we are talking, yes, at times it might be a little bit unfiltered, but I think that unfiltered also adds up to the originality, because if you try to not be yourself, then you essentially you can't really have a really good conversation, if you hide yourself. Yeah. So it's big, it's crazy, because we first started off talking to our friends, and next thing you know, we're getting like business owners, politicians coming in, It's really crazy to think of, and I think that this is possible is because how much Malaysia is changing. Like last time, I don't think this would even happen. Everybody's like, okay, the media is just Steve Street, but now with technology and everything, the times are changing. I do believe podcast is slowly growing. It might take some time for it to grow in Malaysia. that is something that needs to be said. But yeah, it's a crazy journey, and we can only get better from here, And of course, there's some stress, like once you get really good guests, right? There's like this low key stress, like, oh my god, I need to make sure that I maintain good guests, So there's the stress right there, but at the same time, or ensure the guest might not be some prominent, but if the guest is able to provide a really good story, it's equally as good as well. So it's really a crazy journey, and I just have the team. It's all a team, We have all of us has our own equal part, and so we ensure we do it really well. Like me, John, Andrew, and Chok. Each of us, if you watch our podcast, we are a complete different personality, but we sort of like fill up what the other don't have, And lastly is of course the people who watch our podcast, because our podcast is long. It's not 30 seconds or 5 minutes. People actually have to sit down and listen, So they are the real basically.
You mentioned about people coming up to you, right? Your friends. Even have you ever had encounters on the street like, yo, it's Poighai. Hi, like that. Have you tried it? Or
Okay. I had like 2 or 3. I mean, it's not a lot, but it really feels good, Like they say, like, I like episode, then I'm like, yeah, thanks, man. But it warms you, because you know that your podcast did what it needs to be done, which is reach someone. Because we only have like 2K subs. I think it's pretty decent. Of course, we're expecting more, but honestly, it doesn't really matter. From that 2K subs, and compared to the amount of people in Malaysia, and then I'm able to get at least 3. It's really great. And when they come to me, of course, we talk a little bit, but I like to talk. So, and it gives a warm feeling, You feel like you have done a really great job because you're able to touch someone, and whatever happens after that, it's just just for the laugh, Yeah, but it feels good,
So it motivates you, right, to like get better at this, or other, give better content
it
to
just
them, right?
motivates all of us to get better. It motivates all of us to get better. In fact, today we had a guest. We invited the guest to come, but the guest felt so happy that he is invited to our podcast. So it's like it's very mind blowing, to see that we are slowly getting there, and people are noticing us, which is great, lah. It's great, We eventually, of course, we will try to see how we can improve ourselves, because again, like I said, we are, even yourself, we are like sort of becoming part of the media. When people watch, they actually listen. So I can't wait to see what comes in the coming future, basically.
You mentioned about getting guests, right? Getting guests to come over to you, or other people that come up to you and talk to you. Is it important for someone who makes a podcast to be extroverted, to deal with all this attention from the media and stuff?
I honestly think it's good to have a balance, because there are extrovert and introvert, they function and they think differently, right? So there are times where extrovert, they come out with a list of questions, they will definitely miss what an introvert would ask. So it's really good to have a balance. And even at times, like an introvert is basically very introvert when they are in public, but maybe during a podcast, because when there's very little people, or even online, they might be someone else. They might be a little bit more open and vocal, So it's actually pretty decent to have like a balance in it. Sometimes people are like, oh, introvert person, oh no, this guy is going to talk very little. No, it doesn't work that way. If they are in a really comfortable spot, you can see them talking as well, and they think differently, and they can definitely provide really good questions and perspective as well. So yeah, it's good to have a balance.
Right now, I can see a more extroverted guy, right? How about the other both of them on the show? Do you think that any of them are like more introverted than the other 2 of you?
I think I'm the most extrovert, and then we have John. John is somehow maybe semi. I'm only saying this because he said that he's semi-E. And then we have Drew, which is more of the introvert individual, But if you compare with me, John, and Andrew really asks top-notch questions, like very technical stuff, and it's good to have him there as well. Yeah, so as you can see, we have a balance right there. Like we have someone who's overly extrovert, and then someone who's introvert, and then someone who fills in the between, So it's nice. Yeah.
So you complement each other to tell this YumCha podcast?
Yeah. I said we complement each other in the podcast, and then Chok is really great with his editing and his technicality in terms of the camera and sound. So it's, if you watch our podcast before Chok came, you can notice a really huge difference in sound.
I
So
see.
all of us we fill in the gap, Yeah, pretty solid. Yeah.
I see. So when you started having guests coming over to your studio, I think it started from studio, right? Yeah. Guests coming over to your studio, to have a chat and to create an episode. When did this started happening and how?
Okay, so it definitely started out at John's mom's place, all right? So that in the setting was 3 high chair, and then sometimes we would get a fourth, all right? That was where we started to have guests coming over. In fact, even before that, when we doing the cafe, when we started to do in our cafe, like there are times when we went cafe. Is that how you pronounce it? Coffee shop, coffee or something, right?
I don't know, bro.
Yeah, okay, but even that time we started to have guests as well. I still remember the guest name is Tiffany. She used to work in Ippudo, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so we never really thought about bringing guests in as a requirement. We just wanted to have good conversation. And as the podcast continue grow, that's where we realized bringing guests is actually pretty decent, so that people, because there are times where you are unable to meet this person in real, and this person are able to provide you really good information. So we bring them in, and then you listen and you get the takeaway. Yeah. So we actually started off very early bringing guests. It didn't felt like that was the plan, but eventually it became the plan. Because to be honest, we didn't know what we were doing. We just wanted to talk. All right. Yeah, we just wanted to talk. Yeah.
That's nice, man. And what it takes to bring guests into your show? Because I think that
All right.
being a podcaster, you also have a lot of people reject you or don't even reply to your emails. And
Yes.
from there, how do you get those people in?
All right. So okay, first of all, in our podcast, right? So each person have their own role, right? So I tend to take the role of also finding guests. Right. So there are times where we use our connection, that people that we know. So we just like text and, hey, are you free? Just come over. So then they come over, which is easy, But there are times where you need to message people you don't know. And all I can say is you just do it. Don't think. Yes. The moment you think you are gone, just click that send button. Just click it. If they don't reply, you click again. You send. Because Herman, hear me out. You have nothing to lose, but what you have everything to gain. Just click that send button, and then you find another guest. Assume they are not coming, But if they come, it's great, And so slowly, I do believe, of course, as we grew larger, it makes us easier to get guests, nevertheless. But it is that early step of just finding, like you just don't give up, just don't think. It's the overthinking process. Sometimes you're like, oh my God, I'm going to invite this guy, but my podcast is not big enough. What if they say no? Yeah, it doesn't work that way. You just send. Don't care. All right? You just do it. So
that happens every time, man. Every time it's not that happens. It's true, man.
Yeah. Just click send. Just don't care. I mean, you have nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose. But you have values that you can give to people who watch your podcast, and that's great, man. Yeah.
Have you ever had like a big error, like inviting someone and you mistype something? Because I did mistype something. Do you know someone called Tom Scott on YouTube? This guy, big science guy.
Okay, what did you mistype?
I think it was like this guy has 5 million subscribers, right? And
okay,
usually I had like this thing of to send out to people who I want to invite.
Yeah.
And the most important part, the name of this guy. I forgot to put his name, and I put that name. He replied to me with my name there first. Bro.
Wait, means he noticed it and he made it a joke, right?
Yeah.
Bro, it happens, man. I mean, of course, when I send my email message, right, I cross-check it lah. But it happens, man. Like, you are bound to make a mistake. I think I've never had some error in emailing or anything, because what I do is I will look in my laptop, I will read one by one, and because when you send the email, it's already sent. But it happens, especially the name. So what I did to prevent this from happening, right, is that in Gmail you have your signature, right? So you can't get that wrong. And when I start and how I start my topic is I will say, hey, and I will write the fellow's name. I make sure I do that so that there will not be any error, because there are people out there who really take their name seriously. Nothing wrong in that, I mean, you are looking to get someone in and then you get the name wrong and like you can't even do this well. But personally, I feel like it's no big deal. People make mistakes, but it's great that he's able to take it and make it a joke, which is pretty funny. It means that guy, he's a pretty decent guy that I know as well. Yeah, but it happens, and no wrong in that. There are times where in podcasts that we also say things that we're not supposed to say, but it happens. Yeah, so it's totally okay.
Hopefully the people just have fun with it. Don't make it so.
Yeah, just
don't make it such a bad thing, right?
No, I mean it's harmless, Of course, if someone say that actually can we not do this anymore, then you apologize, because there are people who takes their names seriously, and you never know, and it might be a small thing for you, but it might be a big thing for some other people, right? So just apologize. It's completely harmless, So it's a simple thing as saying I'm sorry, and then you move on, so whatever happened after that, if it doesn't work out, then just do bad, just try again next month, I guess. Just email him like, hey, with his name, and then see how it goes, I guess. Right? Can't do anything much other than that. But just keep on trying, that's what it is.
That's cool, man. That's cool. And you have so many guests over, right? I see someone every single time. There's always someone holding a phone with a lot of notes there. Somehow. And you all share the script with the person, right? Before the podcast, you all just have the script yourself or go impromptu with the guy?
So usually before we go a podcast, of course, it's good to come up with questions, But we never share this with our guests. In fact, we managed to get Hannah Yo and Syed Sadeh, right? So they asked like, hey, can you share the question? And I'm like, no, I'm not. I just say, sorry, I do not. We do not share question because this is a podcast, and we tell them it's very relaxed type. Of course, we will ask them what can we talk or cannot talk. And the best part is they say, just talk everything. If we cannot talk about it, we will tai chi it. Then I'm like, nice. So we don't give our guests the questions, because you see, when the guest gets the question, they already know what's coming. And then if you ask them a random ass question, and they like, whoa, I'm not prepared for this. And then it's sort of indirectly build you to be scripted. You might say no, but you low-key become scripted, and it may affect the podcast in a way. That's how I personally feel. So we do not give questions, but we create the questions as well. There are times where we run away from the question, and because a podcast, we believe in the podcast being as spontaneous as possible, because that's how YumCha session works. When you go YumCha with your friend, you just talk about nonsense, right? Yeah, so that's how we do lah. So there are times like, let's say for example, we are inviting people from like the working world, like a CEO or something. Of course, we will try to ask question that is relatable. So hence we have the notes, and then there are times where there are certain questions just come on the spot. It just came out, then we just ask lah. Yeah, that's why our podcast is like something can go up to 3 hours because just talk. Yeah.
Then what's the importance of being informal? Right? You mentioned about like you must keep it relaxed. Since YumCha, you have some fun, right? How important is that to your podcast and maybe to even other podcasts that you're listening to? Does it make you feel relaxed?
I do believe there are times where people watch our podcast, they would feel that it's still scripted, and I think that's good. There is positive in being formal as well, and there are positive in being informal. But if a person is going into a podcast or whatever prepared, it becomes you become more rigid, because you already know, okay, this is coming. But if it's an informal, your body language and everything, you're very relaxed. When you're relaxed, you don't put your defense up so high. You just calm. You allow yourself to wander off and to give really easygoing replies. But if you're prepared, you already know what's coming. Your defense, right? I'm not saying that you need to defend, but your defense mechanism is high. And you already like, it's coming like this, so I'm prepared. Good, but you say I'm good, but you are sort of, you get what I'm saying, right? So you're somehow prepared. Yeah, so both ways has their pros, but we like it to be in a very informal way, because that's how we started. That's our main idea. And we feel that everyone will have a really good time being very informal. Because all the while when you go out there, when you have a podcast interview, it's all very formal, right?
Yeah, man.
I think it's time we make it to be informal, So yeah.
You think podcast should be an informal thing, right? Like this is your ideal structure of how podcast should be.
That's our ideal structure. Yeah. I mean, you can have a podcast that is formal, but you got to make sure whatever you're aiming in your podcast is delivered.
Have you had any? Yeah, sorry, I brought you. Yeah, continue, please.
I'm done. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Do you have any guests, right, that feel like, oh, this is too informal. I don't want to be here, or either like this is too formal.
Sorry,
Can we
I
relax
DC.
it?
Can you repeat again?
My bad. Do you have any guests, right, that was like, okay, this is too formal, or okay, this is too informal, and they told you straight up?
Okay, I will be very honest with you. When we had studied, it was a little bit nervous. But we were all very nervous because it's a pretty big guy. So as before we started, it's like, hey bro, why so serious? Relax, this is a YumCha session, right? Then we like, yeah. So then we just became more relaxed, In fact, we were the one that was being a little bit too formal because it's a pretty big politician, So, but I don't think there was anyone out coming to us and saying this is too formal, relaxed. In fact, what we did is we make them to be very relaxed, and then that's where you get really good conversation, And you're relaxed, you're having a good time. You get to talk, you laugh up, you laugh, and you exchange words. I think that brings really good conversation. And as a guest, right, when you see other people laughing, and stuff, you feel their emotion, when rather than being formal, you're like blah blah blah, then you're like, oh, okay. But when you see people laughing, right, you can relate. Then it's like you're inside, So yeah, so it's very important.
So means you say sometimes those guests actually tell you relax a bit, don't be too stressed, right? And just calm down.
We never actually say that. Like when we do a podcast, right? So you see, Herman, I work as an MC as my part-time, right? So I have the responsibility to ensure that the guest feels comfortable. So the moment the guest enters the podcast, because we have some communication and talking, it is that 10 minutes. There's that 10 minutes time frame when we have a conversation, we talk to the guest and we make them feel very comfortable. So even before the podcast, we don't really need to tell them to be comfortable, to relax. We will make them feel comfortable and relaxed, and then we will start our podcast. Yeah, so we do it before. Yeah, exactly.
Have you heard of Real Talk before? The last time was Millennials of Singapore.
What did you say?
Millennials of Singapore that one time where
all right.
Saffron and Jade Rossif were in the podcast, as well as another person called Jonathan.
Sure, yeah.
Do you all have a format like, okay, we are going to have lunch, we're not going to talk anything during lunch, save it all for podcast, anything that shouldn't be there, just cut it off? Do you have anything like that?
Okay, sometimes when we talk with guests, if they are very overly sensitive information, and only if the guest requests to move it, we do. Of course, there are certain things we must protect. If the guest say he felt that may harm his reputation or whatsoever, you have to respect that. So we cut it out. Because if you notice in our podcast, there are very little edits. It's like almost no edit. What you see is raw. So if there are times where there are things that needs to be removed, we do not practice this because again, it's YumCha session. But if it needs to be removed, then we will remove it. Yeah, you got to respect the request of the guest, Yeah. So.
I remember your average episode was like 1 hour-ish. So means plus all the editing, everything was like 1 hour 10, usually.
Of course, we watch through the podcast. So so we give an extra 10 minutes after that just to ensure everything works out fine. There are times our videos go up to 2 hours, 3 hours, It's pretty long. Yeah, but we will also know, like during the podcast, if we know there's nothing wrong. So sometimes we already know that the podcast went great. So there's not much editing required. So if we found that there's hiccups here, more or less we can track it through and just do minor editing. And as for the rest, then we do some color gradings and sound and everything, which doesn't take too long. And that's about it, because our podcast is unfiltered and it's raw, So there are times where very rare that we have to remove certain things. Very rare.
So it's very easygoing, like everything come out is just straight up. Just straight up.
Yeah, straight up. Yeah, whatever you listen there, it's what it said. You know? And there, of course, we will ask the guests that what can be mentioned, what cannot be mentioned. So we avoid certain sensitive issue, unless of course they're comfortable with it. If they're okay with it, then we will go ham, like, just like, all right, let's go. We milk that sauce, So yeah, it's pretty chill, it's pretty chill and easygoing, yeah.
I got another question, right? For a podcast, right? Do you have any aims or goals other than just having people take something away from your podcast? Any goals for your future of this podcast?
In the future, right? It's always been all of it's a collective goal, We would like to open up a cafe called YumCha Cafe, and we would like to do our podcast there every week. So everyone is outside having like coffee and whatsoever, and in the middle will be us with our guests, and we're having a podcast. That's the goal, I think it's pretty exciting, and it's definitely something like could work out. It's like, today we invite example Najib.
Yeah.
So Najib coming to my cafe to have a podcast. And then the people who are there who are sipping a cup of coffee, then they'll be able to see him. I don't know whether you want to throw eggs or get his autograph, it depends to them. I know I'm saying, but you allow people to meet, and actually after the podcast, they will probably eat their lunch or go back. I'm not sure, but the public then can meet these people. It feels great. It feels nice. And that is what we are probably looking into.
I mean, I don't think I'll visit if that happens one day. I'll come visit one day. And
it feels great. It really feels good.
It's a great idea. It's definitely a great idea. Because I think there's this stress of people making podcasts, right? That it's hard to get guests, first of all. And second, it's hard to even start off, right? Malaysia, I think Malaysians have listened to podcasts quite little compared to people like in the US. It's really little. Yes. That's why it's hard for people to grow. And because video, like short videos from TikToks right now to a few years back, long videos on YouTube, short films, short skits. Why did you all decide to do podcasts instead of video, right? Besides from the idea that you all started in a cafe, you all just met up coincidentally. Why you all didn't switch to videos, just short skits, like the popularity at the time?
I cannot think of any reason, but when you sit down and talk with your friends, it's never a 10-minute talk. And that's just the reason. We stick to our name now. When you go YumCha with your friends, it's a long time, and that's why we decided to not do it a short reel. I mean, of course, a shorter reel videos will definitely be more relatable to all the youngsters. But this kind of concept is already out there, but podcast is not. That's simply the reason why we just choose to stick to long formatting, So it's like people can listen to this when they are driving or something like that. In the gym, you're working out, you can listen to our Spotify. To maintain the essence, of our main idea, So we just wanted to do that, it definitely is going to be easier if we do it short format, but that's just not what we wanted to do, In fact, we didn't even think of making it short. We thought about it. Maybe we should keep it 1 hour or 45 minutes. But that we always fail to do that because as we talk, it suddenly becomes 1.5 hours and 2 hours, So yeah, so it's just a conversation. I really don't know what else to say. Basically, just wanted to just have a YumCha session and then go back home after that.
Literally YumCha session, right?
Literally YumCha session.
I got a question before that. I can attest to that I can listen to your podcast anywhere. Sorry to my any teachers listening right now. I listen to your podcast while they teach. So more knowledge, right?
You learn more than us, bro.
I learn more on the podcast sometimes. Not always. Right. I have a question for you, right? Because my logo right down here somewhere is designed by a friend, right? She helped me design it and stuff. For your logo, did someone from 4 of you all come up with it? Because I feel like it's like really casual.
Bro, it was casual. It was made in Instagram. I'm not kidding you. John created it.
Oh, Instagram, just like that.
I think it was Instagram. He just drew and it became our logo. That's it. No thoughts. He just drew it and we're like, wow, We like it. And it became the logo. That's it. It was
Simple.
a 5-minute, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it was a 5-minute drawing. He just drew it on his pad in Instagram or something, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it literally took 5 minutes. We didn't sit down and we brainstormed this, He just drew and we were like, you know what? It looks good.
This is the one.
And
This
it
is the
became-
one.
Yeah,
This is the one. Our logo.
It is so unfiltered. It's like, what is this? But I think it speaks of us as a collective, YumCha session. So it's just a cup. And you see, that's it. that's literally how the logo came alive, and I love it. And people have been like, "Wow, the logo, you must have put a lot of thought." Nah, bro, no thoughts. It's like minimum thoughts. That's what it is, Yeah, but it's great to see like people actually like the logo, because it's just nice, lah. Yeah.
So a 5-minute logo with hundreds of hours of podcasts, and that's your logo until now. That's crazy, man. That's a mad.
Yeah, we are not. The logo is going to stay there forever, man. The only thing changing is us as we grow older, That's it. Whatever else, nothing else is going to change, Yeah. Unbelievable, right? Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Literally. Do you have any advice, right, for those that want to start podcasts? Be it formal or informal, right? Any advice from you? Since you've been doing podcasts for over 100 hours, over 100 episodes, in this span of being literally from a cafe to a studio. Any advice?
If you want to go alone, you definitely let me rephrase that. Even if you're alone on going as a team, is having a conversation about it is very important. But if you overthink it, you will not do it. If you sit down and you think yourself, right, how many times that there are things that you really wanted to do, but as you think, then you're like, I don't think it's gonna work, and then you don't do it. That's one of the main killers of dreams and things that people want to do. So if you want to do it first, and then if it doesn't turn out well, see how you can fix it. It's better that way rather than trying to fix it even before it's made up, even before it's there, because if you are trying to fix it to make it better when it's already out there, you will continue. But if you're trying to fix it when it's not out there, then you'll be like, never mind lah, Yeah, so do it and make sure that you have a key goal in your video. Like if this is your podcast and this is what you want your viewers to get, you stick to that, you stick to the route till the end. At times you can do changes, but don't change your value. Like if you see in our podcast that we use profanities, right? We are very unfiltered. There are times where people will say, hey, you shouldn't use profanity. And we're like, yeah, it doesn't work that.
But yeah, just being yourself, right?
Yeah, you just being yourself.
That's why your podcast is so casual.
Why hide? Are you telling me you don't use it? Okay, if you're telling me you don't use it, okay, sure. But there are people out there who, right? So why hide? What are you trying to change? Unless of course it's really offensive, then we don't do it. But we are not. It's not attacking someone. In fact, I think those profanities are an word enhancement. It's like I give you an example. This is really nice. Nasi lemak. Can I use profanities here?
Yeah, just go ahead, man.
Then or this is a really nice nasi lemak. You see the difference. You see the difference, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it brings out people. So stick to your roots and just do it. Thinking is good, but the moment you think too much, gone. GG, man. I'm telling you. I'm saying this because it works for us.
I think it's just facts, right?
It's facts. It's facts. Whatever happened, whatever mishaps comes alongside it, then you fix it. But the only reason you're going to fix it is because you're already committed, you're already inside it. And that's where it gets better, So do it first. If you want to do a podcast, man, you just got to do it. Stick to your values. It's going to be hard. It's not easy because the podcast market in Malaysia, it's still an infant, It's not even up there, right? Mm-hmm. So if it's going to grow, all of you guys who are going to do the podcast, the people, you guys are going to be the one that's driving it. So we need more people like this, Yeah, definitely.
I think that's just the perfect way to end our show right there. All this bunch of advice and perfect things, right?
Yeah.
So I think to those listening, right, that's the end of today's show, right? A big thank you, of course, to Poighai to be here.
Mhm.
Kind of shocking that I got you here, right? And being pretty calm compared to my other more tense videos. So yeah, it's good having you here. You see my other
Hey,
podcasts, they are just tense. I was tense all the way, man.
you see, it comes back to my point. God be very relaxed. When you're relaxed, it's so easy to talk and you feel good. When you tense up. But okay, when your guest is tense, right? That's where you need to make them not as tense as how they were. Yeah. So this is a challenge for you, I would say as well. Yeah. So how to make them untense? So you need to understand these people better. Understand their personality in the first 5 minutes. You should, okay, this is how they are. Then you need to find a way to get them to be very comfortable. So this could be another advice as well, because the moment you get them into a comfortable zone, you can feel like even our podcast right now, it's very relaxing, and you can just if you don't stop the show right now, right, we can continue for another hour. I'm telling you. Yeah. So it's very important. Yeah.
It's pretty simple to continue on and on, right?
Yeah, it's gonna go on and on and on. Someone's gonna stop us, man, I'm telling you, So, but hey, thanks for asking. It's a real pleasure to be here. In fact, I think you did a really good and bold move to when you emailed us. I opened the email. I'm like, damn. And then I saw your age and I saw your video. I'm like, this guy is starting.
So thanks. I really appreciate that, man.
Yeah, I have to be here. If I don't come, I would feel like maybe in the coming future, if you don't continue, I would feel like I did this. Like times where people when they start off a journey, right? I do believe like the people who are already in the industry, they should help these people. Yeah. So when I saw your email, I saw your videos, I'm like, this guy is me 2 years ago. And immediately I left you a text on Instagram like, let's do it, man. Of course, I delayed it a little bit, but I had to come over. I had to have the discussion. So whatever you're doing, just keep it up. I'm telling you, if you need help from your friends, get a. You can see it being much more better. Definitely, yeah, true.
Thanks, bro. Really appreciate it here, man. And yeah, to those out there listening, right, you can listen it on a lot of platforms right now, from Spotify to YouTube to I believe Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts is also available there. You can DM me on Instagram if you've got anything. And of course, once again, thanks Poighai for being here. Hope you have a great night, great evening, or whenever you're listening to this too. Bye bye. Have a great time.
Right. Bye, guys.